President of WIFO says he is disappointed with government. Technical lead at the WHO says more COVID cases are being detected in young people. But first up, French and Dutch sides give an update on COVID-19 cases. Those are the headlines from Monday, March 30th, 2020. And this is SXM Daily News. I'm Valerie Van Putten. Now for the details. A joint press conference was held on Sunday, March 29th, by the two counterparts of Dutch and French St. Martin regarding an update of the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. In attendance were Prime Minister Sylvia Jacobs and Prefect Sylvie Vercheer. The new Minister of Justice, Anna Richardson, and Police Chief Carl John was also in attendance. According to the Prime Minister, extra military has been requested, but in the meantime, the Prime Minister has increased measures and as such has imposed a curfew to ensure the continued health of the community.
It is my pleasure and honor to be able to continue to have these discussions. I have also notified the Ministry of Defense in the Netherlands of our agreement moving forward in terms of continued restriction of movement. Seeing that we are one island, one people, measures on one side not being on the other side can be a challenge for the enforcement. The realities are, though, that we have a capacity issue, and so therefore we can only regulate within what our capacity is at this time. We have requested for extra military to be brought in to assist with any fallout, but that has not been realized as yet. We still await the response from our Dutch counterparts as to when that will take place. In the meantime, however, I must say that the persons residing and living and working on the Dutch side of St. Martin have been very compliant with the business closures and with the restrictions of movement, albeit we did not yet have the paper in place. We have noted that once our businesses are closed at 6 o'clock, that there is minimal movement already, and as the EOC just having met, we have still decided, based on these agreements, to increase our measures to restrict movement even internally within the island. As such, the regulation is being finalized and will be published hopefully in the morning. But as of tonight, as of midnight tonight, so 00:00 hours on the 30th of March, persons wanting to travel should only be doing so on a strict necessity base, meaning to go to work, and I'm not even talking now about borders, but to go to work and to carry out essential services. The essential businesses remain open, so you can pay your bills, you can go to the bank, you can go to your, if you must, by appointment to your lawyer or your notary. We consider that essential business, and the only difference would be that we are now restricting vendors from selling any type of alcoholic beverages. That has been the only challenge that the police and the community has been challenged with. We must thank all those who call in to law enforcement to report when they see people congregating around a place that is selling food. So restaurants and vendors will continue to be able to sell food because we consider that an essential service whereby not everyone has a kitchen or not everyone has the ability or the time within the working periods to be able to do so. So that will continue as long as all vendors and restaurants follow the regulations. Anyone found to be in violation of these regulations will be closed down until the restrictions are over.
And the Prime Minister, in her national address on Sunday, March 29th, also announced that all residents must now travel with documents. You will be required to download and fill out the documents in order to be able to move freely on the island. She announced a curfew that has been put in place effective Monday, March 30th from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. the following morning. This is being done so that no unnecessary movement occurs during the established curfew time.
All residents of St. Martin, Saint-Martin, all 37 square miles, needing to cross the border will only be able to do so for either work or health purposes. You will then be required to carry a second document, a document which will be available on both governments' websites for download. Our St. Martin residents will continue to give or receive essential services during the day. However, government services will be by appointment only. Effective Monday, March 30th, all licensed restaurant holders, including vendors, street vendors, will only be able to sell or deliver food. It is strictly forbidden by these vendors and restaurants to sell any alcoholic beverages whatsoever while persons are awaiting their food to be finalized. This is in order to minimize the chance of persons gathering at these establishments in a social atmosphere where proper social distancing of 1.5 to 2 meters between persons is not being observed. The business closures, which continue at 6 p.m. each day, and business closures on Sunday will remain in effect. Additionally, as of Monday, March 30th, 2020, a curfew will be implemented at 8 p.m. until 6 a.m. the following morning to allow for the majority of workers to get home in time. This curfew is being implemented in order to restrict movement except for emergencies during these hours, and has been added in order to ensure that no unnecessary movement occurs during the established business closure times. Persons traveling to essential work before and after the established curfew, thus before 6 a.m. or after 8 p.m., will be exempted from this measure. For example, those working night shifts and early morning shifts, including security guards, nurses, radio hosts, etc.
And last Friday morning, March 27th, the St. Martin Police Force, together with the Gendarmerie Nationale, carried out joint controls on the French and Dutch borders of the island. The main reason for these joint controls were to enforce the restricted movement of persons that has been implemented as a preventative measure to avoid the further spread of the coronavirus COVID-19. The Dutch and French counterparts conducted their first control in the area of the roundabout leading to Bellevue. During this control, over 50 vehicles were stopped, and one person was arrested because they were driving with a false driver's license. The St. Martin Police Force and the Gendarmerie Nationale will be carrying out more of these joint controls in the future. And still to come, swearing in of the new Council of Ministers on Saturday. I'll have the details of that story and more when SXM Daily News returns.
GEBE has been faithfully serving the communities of St. Martin, powering your home and our economy. Come rain or shine, our qualified team of professionals are working hard 24 hours a day to provide you and your family with safe, reliable electricity and water. We use the latest technologies and test our products daily to maintain the highest international standards. Our friendly staff is always there to assist you, whether in person, over the phone, or online. We are committed to constantly improving our products and services, making them more efficient, effective, and environmentally friendly to serve you better today and our next generation of clients tomorrow. GEBE, powering a brighter future.
Our friend Megawati is here with tips to save you energy. 1. Turn your airco temperature up. 2. Use a ceiling fan instead. 3. Buy energy-saving products. Save some green with NVGEBE.
And St. Martin now has a new Council of Ministers. The oath of office was administered by the Governor of St. Martin, Dr. Anders Eugene Holliday, on Saturday, March 28, 2020. Governor Holliday, in his speech, said that the people of St. Martin and of the world are facing extraordinary and global economic crises caused by COVID-19 pandemic, budgetary challenges, to name a few. This, however, does not mean that we cannot build a resilience to overcome this challenge. It reminds us that we are all interconnected and we are all in this together.
Prime Minister, Ministers, Today, just over 10 weeks since the January 9th, 2020 election, a lot has changed. The peoples of the world and of our island are facing an extraordinary global human and economic crisis caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. This crisis comes amidst the economic recovery and budgetary challenges we are facing due to the impact from Hurricane Irma and amidst the risk of our country being blacklisted by FATF, to name a few. This crisis requires a public health and socio-economic policy response that exceeds the available resources of our country. This, however, does not mean that we cannot and will not build the resilience to overcome this challenge. On the contrary, the COVID-19 pandemic reminds us again, and now more than ever, that we are interconnected across continents, across countries, across our kingdom, and across and within our borders. We are reminded that each of us is responsible for the well-being of our brother and our neighbor. We are reminded that the people of this island are in this together. And as a people, we are called upon to follow regulations and to act socially responsible to protect each other and the most vulnerable among us. We must stand in solidarity with the residents of our island during these trying times. I would therefore like to take this opportunity to express my immense gratitude to our committed men and women on the front line of this crisis, and in particular to our healthcare professionals for their devoted service. Prime Minister, ministers, you are as such assuming office under extraordinary circumstances. I therefore hereby encourage you to take up your mandate with a united sense of urgency. One anchored on the principles of solidarity, consultation, and cooperation with our people, with our health sector, with our businesses, and with our partners in the North, in the region, and in the kingdom.
The governor also reminded the Council of Ministers that it is imperative that government continues to secure the confidence necessary to raise the required funds, and he implored the Council of Ministers to raise the required funds to cushion our economy. Another area that needs the immediate attention of the new government is in the public health sector. He continued coordinated public health measure is needed to contain the virus, he further elaborated.
Considering the magnitude of the challenges, it is imperative that government continues to work to secure the confidence necessary to raise the required funds to cushion our economy. Essential priorities in this regard are continued coordinated public health measures to contain the virus, the overdue approval of the Penal Procedural Code to address the risks of the FATF blacklisting, the approval of the 2020 budget as part of government's commitment to sound budgetary and financial management practices, and the rollout of a comprehensive comprehensive socio-economic recovery plan. And by doing so, offer the support our people and businesses need for an effective socio-economic recovery. Prime Minister, ministers, as you assume your mandate to govern our country in these exceptional circumstances, I trust that you, in keeping with your oath, will work in solidarity, consultation, and cooperation with our people, with our health sector, with our businesses, and with our partners, and thus overcome the challenges to safeguard the well-being of our people.
And the new Council of Ministers are reappointed Prime Minister and Minister of General Affairs, Sylvia Jacobs. The new Minister of Justice is Anna Richardson. Minister of Finance, Ardwell Edion. Dr. Rodolphe Samuel is the new Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport. Akbar Doran is the new Minister of Public Housing, Spatial Planning, Environment and Infrastructure, VROMI. And Ludmila De Weaver is the new Minister of Tourism, Economic Affairs, Transport and Telecommunication. Richard Pandafleck is the new Minister of Public Health, Social Development and Labor, and René Violinis, who will remain as Minister Plenipotentiary in the Netherlands. And in other news at this time, the World Health Organization, which is headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland, gave an update over the weekend regarding the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic at a press conference. According to Dr. Maria van Kerkhove, WHO's technical lead health emergencies program at the HWO, she says that more cases is being detected in younger people. This virus can cause mild disease, moderate disease, critical disease, and death.
Of causing infection and severe disease in all people of all ages. What we know from data across a number of countries, including data from China, including data from the US and Italy and Iran and Korea and Japan and others, is that this virus can cause mild disease, can cause moderate disease, which is described as people who still have pneumonia but don't need oxygen support, who can cause severe disease, can cause critical disease, and who can kill some people. Amongst children, the data that we've seen from a number of countries is that the majority of children that are infected are experiencing mild disease, but we do have reports, and there are some publications now that describe severe disease in children. We have reports of deaths in children. There's one in China, and I believe one in the United States as well. We do need more well-characterized descriptions of severity across the age groups so that we can better summarize what we know about this in the different age groups. Ideally, what we would like to see is the use of a clinical characterization protocol. This is another data capture platform that WHO has launched, which involves systematic data collection in terms of signs and symptoms, in terms of regular sampling, of hospitalized patients so that we can better characterize the natural history of this disease in people who are in hospital. But there is data that's coming out from a number of countries, and we welcome the rigorous data collection that is occurring in very difficult situations in hospitals, whether this is clinical data or epidemiologic data across a number of countries. Currently, there are no specific medications that have been approved for COVID-19. However, there are a number of clinical trials that are ongoing, and there's the Solidarity trial that is currently starting, which is just enrolling patients now, which is looking at therapeutics in controlled clinical trial, in a clinical trial. And what is very important is that these medications are evaluated appropriately so we know what works, and that we have the right data to support what works.
Now turning to our weather forecast. Weather for March 30th, 2020 is as follows. The Atlantic high pressure system will maintain a relatively stable atmosphere along with a gentle to moderate breeze across the region. Additionally, the relative dry air mass over the region will also act to limit shower activity during the forecast period. Seas will remain moderate through Tuesday. Small craft operators and sea bathers are advised to exercise caution. Now, let's turn to your 3-day forecast. And still to come, President of the Windward Islands Teachers Union says she is disappointed with the way the Prime Minister is touring. I'll have the details of that story and more when SXM Daily News returns.
Make use of WIB mobile banking with easy access and direct usage of face recognition, PIN code, or fingerprint. Download WIB mobile banking app and make your transaction from anywhere at any time. For more information, visit wib-bank.net/quick-login.
And as we continue now with the news, President of the Windward Islands Teachers Union, Mrs. Claire Elshot, is disappointed with the way the Prime Minister is touring, but has not yet met with the unions. Mrs. Elshot made the statements at a weekly press conference at their headquarters in Madame Estate last week. Mrs. Elshot said that she is very disappointed to see that the Prime Minister never toured any of the facilities of education to make sure everything was according to standards.
In addition to that, we have noted through press conferences that our minister became a minister of tours. The Prime Minister is a minister of tours. We saw how she diligently toured the airport, then she toured another facility, etc. She was then in the role of making sure that everything is all right. It was very disappointing, though, to see that a minister, Prime Minister, that was a former educator, never toured none of the facilities for education to make sure that everything was being done in the right way and everything was actually, according to the standards. So internationally, we have seen that we lost a teacher, we lost a principal to the corona disease already on the international level. God forbid, I hope that we don't have to experience that in St. Martin. But I'm saying, why do we continue to, expose a certain group of workers, yes, to that risk, while another group not? Because in the meantime, we notice there is a list of non-essential businesses under which the schools fall under that. But still, the contradiction is the schools, the teachers have to be in the schools. Okay? And then the essential businesses and the police are policing, as we have been told, to make sure that a certain amount of persons are in there, that the people adhere to cleanliness, because, of course, people are using in supermarkets, they're using gloves, and then when you look at the gloves, they are so dirty that you're wondering what kind of effect that would have. You can see the dirt through the gloves.
And President of the Windward Islands Federation of Labor, Mr. Theophilus Thompson, is also disappointed with government. Mr. Thompson says he is amazed that government is having all types of meetings except with the unions. They are taking steps and measures of which the unions are not in total agreement with. He expounded.
The laws for St. Martin that the ILO would recommend can only be in effect when it's ratified by our parliament. And that is why in this crisis time, we are amazed that the government are having meetings with all kinds of different persons except the unions. And so they're taking steps and measures which the unions are not totally in agreement with, because it is not only different to what the international labor standard is, but it also assisting in poverty. And poverty elimination is a fundamental agenda put forth by the United Nations and the ILO that all governments should adhere to. One of the things I want to bring forward is that St. Martin's economy, which is tourism. We hardly have any hotels here in St. Martin. We have timeshare properties. And it's important to note that timeshare is different to hotels. Hotel, you come, you check in, and you pay one time. Timeshare, that's not the case. Timeshare is an annual maintenance fee, which is paid. So, and most of the timeshare properties, they collect those timeshare fees by the end of February. And that timeshare commitment by the timeshare owners supposed to be the mainstay of the budget of the resorts for the entire year. Government need to know and understand that. But the danger is that those monies are not kept or held here in St. Martin, because the owners of these resorts, they're in America. They're Americans. And so they collect all the monies in America, They transfer money here to pay salaries, taxes, etc.
And still to come in this edition of SXM Daily News, media consultant for Talem says Talem has increased their bandwidth for internet use. I'll have the details of that story and more when SXM Daily News returns. And to end this edition of SXM Daily News for this evening, media consultant for Talem Internet Service, Mr. Joe Dominique, says that they have increased their bandwidth for internet use. This has come as more and more people are working from home and more people are using their devices, causing more demand on the internet service. The company is aware and are monitoring this situation.
We put out a release this morning talking about the increased use or the change of patterns in use of internet that our technicians and engineers here are noticing. And that's, as you know, as a consequence of more people working from home, more children being at home, more people using their devices. You know, the guidelines seem to be observed by the members of the public. And so people are at home making use of their various devices. And that is causing some demand on the services in terms of internet and bandwidth that people generally are using. You will probably realize that people were still using bandwidth while they were at work, but now they are at home and they're looking to entertain, or they're looking to even connect with their own work computers. They are making that additional use of the internet service. There are different peaks, like say now there are peaks during the afternoon, and there are still the peaks that remain in the evening times when people would normally finish work and then, you know, browse or go on the internet, check their emails, etc. But they seem to also be doing that now. So there are different peaks that the people at Talem are seeing. So why the release is out is really to inform members of the public that the company is aware of this change of pattern of use, and that the network at any time might need to be adjusted to accommodate for that. So in some areas where people might experience that they are getting slow service or that their service is dropping, we are monitoring that, and we know exactly what steps needs to be taken to correct it.
I'm Valerie Van Putten. Just a reminder that this and other programs are available online. Simply log on to stmartinmediacenter.com for viewing. And on behalf of SXM Daily News team, I thank you for watching and plan on meeting you right back here again tomorrow.